The poison that ended Niccolo Machiavelli's political life didn't come in a physical cup. It wasn't the hemlock that executed Socrates either. It's the silent venom draining your power every single time you look at your phone. The ultimate rule of power right now, in modern America, you aren't the genius standing trial. You are the one sitting in the jury box, actively pulling the trigger. Over the next few minutes, I am going to expose the brutal blueprint of control that the elites don't want you to decode. This is the exact trap Plato warned us about, and the raw data from Cornell and MIT proves it is moving faster than ever before. This isn't a conspiracy theory. It's the foundational law of political survival written by Niccolo Machiavelli himself. In the game of power, the crowd never punishes ignorance. The crowd punishes the person who points it out. 500 jurors and a death sentence. Let's travel back to a society that viewed itself as the peak of human achievement, a superpower of commerce, free speech, and ultimate democracy. The year is 399 BC. The place is Athens. 500 ordinary citizens, the everyday voters of their time, are about to cast a ballot on whether to execute a 70-year-old man whose only offense was asking too many questions. He didn't lead an armed rebellion. He didn't steal a dime. He had zero military force. He simply walked the public square, peeling back the layers of what people claimed to believe. And for that, the most progressive democracy in the ancient world ordered him to drink lethal poison. Look at the raw data, because the math contains the Machiavellian lesson. The initial vote on guilt was razor thin, 280 to 221. He could have easily negotiated. He could have apologized, paid a minor penalty, or accepted exile. His inner circle begged him to play the political game. Instead, he insulted their collective ego. He told the jury they should actually reward him with free luxury meals for life. The second vote, the one determining his execution, was a total landslide. 360 citizens voted for death. Only 140 voted to spare him. Think about that. Dozens of jurors who originally thought he was innocent completely flipped. They didn't change their minds because they discovered new evidence. They changed their minds because they couldn't stand being humiliated. The danger of the mirror, the Athenian jury wasn't uneducated. They were the most politically active elite citizens on earth. Yet, they willingly chose total delusion. They slaughtered the one man who tried to break their chains. Today, you're watching this identical psychological execution play out on your social media feeds. To master this Machiavellian reality, you must understand why the masses harbor such intense hatred for the truth teller. Years before the trial, a man journeyed to the oracle at Delphi and asked a direct question: "Is anyone wiser than Socrates?" The oracle answered, "No." When the philosopher heard this, he did something the average person is completely incapable of doing. He didn't celebrate. He didn't launch an expensive masterclass. He assumed the oracle was wrong and spent years trying to find someone smarter than himself to prove it. He interviewed the politicians. He interviewed the celebrity influencers of his day. He interviewed the military elite. He asked them basic questions about the concepts they claimed to dominate: leadership, justice, patriotism, wealth. One by one, every single expert shattered, not because they lacked intelligence, but because they had never once examined their own foundational ideas. They were masters of performance, but completely defenseless against a real question. Niccolo Machiavelli recognized this exact dynamic centuries later. He observed that true political wisdom means seeing reality as it actually is, not how we wish it to be. The elite are almost never the wisest. They are merely the best at projecting absolute certainty. The great psychological sickness, the ultimate idiot, isn't the person who lacks knowledge. The idiot is the person who aggressively defends a reality they don't even understand. Centuries before modern behavioral science, this was identified as the ultimate human psychological sickness. The only antidote is absolute realism, the strategic courage to map out your own ignorance. But when you project that reality onto a crowd, you aren't viewed as a savior. You are viewed as an existential threat, because truth acts as an unyielding mirror. Think about your own life in America today. Think about the last time you were totally exposed in front of your peers. Not just minorly uncomfortable, completely stripped of your narrative. Maybe someone called out a lie you were telling yourself. Maybe, in the middle of a confident speech you were making, someone simply asked, "What is your actual source for that?" Remember how your body reacted. You didn't pause to think. You went into survival mode. You attacked. You looked for a way to destroy the credibility of the person who put you on the spot. You went home and framed a story where they were the arrogant bully and you were the innocent victim. That is what happened to Athens. For 40 years, one man held up a mirror to the ruling elite. Every single time a billionaire, a politician, or a high-profile influencer collapsed under a simple question in front of their followers, the humiliation festered. They didn't eliminate him because he was wrong. They eliminated him because he ruined their brand. Eliminate the source here is the Machiavellian rule you need to memorize. People rarely hate you for being wrong. They hate you for making them look foolish. The smart student in an American classroom who gets alienated isn't targeted out of simple jealousy. They are targeted because their sheer existence is an unspoken indictment of everyone else. Every correct answer they give is a tiny psychological wound to the rest of the room. The human nervous system has exactly one default setting for that level of discomfort: eliminate the source. If you have ever found yourself shrinking your intelligence in a corporate meeting, a classroom, or a family dinner, not because you lacked insight, but because you knew sharing it would ruin your social standing, you have already survived a mini trial of Socrates. You weren't penalized for being incorrect. You were penalized for exposing the room. And the mirror is the most hated weapon in the history of human civilization. Plato was only 25 when he watched his mentor forced to drink poison. He never truly recovered. The majority of his life's work became a direct strategic war against that democratic vote. In his writings, he detailed exactly what happens to a civilization that operates this way. He called it the ship of fools. The ship of fools. Imagine a massive vessel on the open ocean. The legal owner of the ship is large and powerful, but he's hard of hearing, short-sighted, and knows absolutely nothing about maritime navigation. That owner represents the general public. The sailors on board are constantly fighting over who gets to hold the steering wheel. Not a single one of them has ever actually studied navigation. In fact, they boldly claim that navigation can't even be taught as a skill, and they are entirely willing to destroy anyone who suggests otherwise. They flatter the wealthy owner. They keep him completely intoxicated. They manipulate him, seize control of the wheel, and start driving the ship like absolute madmen. They steer toward whatever coastline promises the easiest dopamine hit, the loudest party, or the quickest profit. Now, notice the quiet figure standing at the edge of the deck. He is studying the stars. He is mapping the wind patterns. He is calculating the ocean currents. He is the only individual on the entire ship who actually possesses the capability to guide them safely home. What does the crew do? They call him a useless academic, a stargazer, a relevant babbler. They mock him, push him into the shadows, and the moment he screams too loudly that they are heading directly toward a reef, they throw him straight into the ocean. This isn't a fable about ancient history. This is a direct description of your current digital algorithm. The clueless ship owner? That's the unthinking masses. The manipulative sailors? Those are the modern political grifters and corporate elites. The thrown overboard navigator? That's the actual expert, the realist, the strategist who refuses to lie to you. The crew isn't inherently evil. They are simply executing standard human behavior. They will always select the comforting flatterer over the accurate navigator. And every single time, without exception, they crash directly into the rocks. Welcome to the digital cave long before our modern digital infrastructure existed. The exact nature of your current algorithmic timeline was mapped out. The size of the vessel has expanded, but the psychology of the crew remains completely identical. Plato went even deeper, delivering a raw truth that Niccolo Machiavelli later weaponized for political survival: the allegory of the cave. Imagine a deep, subterranean cavern. Inside, prisoners have been chained by their necks and legs since infancy. They are locked in place, forced to look at nothing but a blank stone wall directly in front of them. Behind these prisoners are massive fire blazes. Between the fire and the chained captives, elites carry various shapes, statues, and objects across an elevated walkway. The fire projects the shadows of these objects onto the wall in front of the prisoners. For the captives, those moving shadows are the absolute totality of existence. They invent names for the shadows. They hand out prestigious awards to the prisoner, who's quickest at predicting which shadow will appear next. They build entire identities, careers, and social hierarchies around analyzing the flat stone wall. Then, one day, a single prisoner's chains are shattered. He is dragged forcibly up the rocky incline into the blinding sunlight. His eyes experience agonizing pain. He absolutely loathes the person who freed him. He desperately tries to crawl back down into the familiar dark. But slowly, his vision adjusts. He witnesses the fire. He witnesses the puppets. He looks up and sees the actual sun, the trees, and the real world. He suddenly realizes that his entire life was spent in a basement, celebrating meaningless echoes. Here is the ultimate test. He returns to the cave to rescue the others. What happens next? His eyes, now fully adjusted to reality, can no longer read the dim shadows on the wall. He stumbles in the dark. The remaining prisoners mock him. They declare that his journey upstairs completely ruined his mind. They fiercely protect their chains. And as Plato explicitly stated, if they could manage to get their hands on the man trying to free them, they would murder him. The resentment of the masses. This isn't ancient mythology. The cave is modern culture, and the vote to execute the truth teller occurs every single day. For generations, Western society convinced itself that we had advanced past this primitive mob behavior. We built universities, instituted scientific methods, and engineered mass education. We told ourselves the cave was permanently sealed. It wasn't sealed, it was just digitized. In the mid-20th century, historical analysis revealed a deep-seated truth about American life, a profound underlying resentment toward intellectual depth and those who represent it. The diagnosis was chillingly exact. Democracy, when completely uncoupled from a cultural commitment to rigorous truth, will naturally manifest an intense hatred for real intelligence. Why? Because true brilliance is the one asset the masses can never simply vote themselves into possessing. By the 21st century, this condition escalated into an epidemic. The internet, a consumer-driven education model, and a highly sensationalized media loop engineered a massive population of hyper-confident, deeply misinformed individuals who actively look to dismantle expertise. Refusing to defer to anyone who actually knows more has become a modern badge of freedom. The attention crash and the speed of lies look closely at the architecture of our current digital landscape. We are witnessing a documented collective cognitive decline. A massive study tracking Twitter data discovered that fabricated news penetrates deeper, wider, and significantly faster than objective reality across every single information category. The top tier of fabricated narratives easily reached up to 100,000 individuals, while verified truth struggled to cross 1,000. When researchers stripped out automated bots to isolate human behavior, the pattern remained identical. It wasn't the machines lying to us, it was humans craving the delusion. Real-world facts are strictly constrained by physics and logic. A lie can be engineered to be infinitely shocking, perfectly optimized for human engagement. We have engineered an environment where the first generation raised entirely on digital interfaces is testing as less cognitively capable than their parents. Tens of millions of adults didn't read a single book last year. Mass public trust in scientific institutions, leadership, and systemic data has completely cratered. You aren't imagining the breakdown of reality. You are trapped inside the cave, and the screen is projecting the shadows at hyperspeed. The Machiavellian choice, so let's ask the raw, uncomfortable question that Niccolò Machiavelli would confront you with if you stepped into his inner chambers. When you consume information tonight, how many of those concepts have you actually investigated? Not just encountered, not just reposted. Investigated. When was the last time you actively sought to falsify your own political worldview? When was the last time you encountered a superior argument, abandoned your ego, and felt genuine gratitude toward the person who proved you wrong? If that question triggers an immediate wave of defensiveness, look at that reaction clearly. That is the exact psychological mechanism that killed Socrates. That is the rage of the prisoner refusing to look at the light. The modern self-help industry will lie to you. They will tell you that if you feel alienated or misunderstood, it's purely because you are a special genius. Machiavelli offers a far more brutal, realistic assessment. You are isolated because the identical crowd dynamic that executed the greatest minds in history is fully operational in your corporation, your social circle, and your digital network. The price of absolute honesty will always be mass popularity. Two paths to the future. Every single era has its truth tellers, and the vast majority are silenced without a sound. They are quieted, pushed out of industries, shadow banned, and systematically drowned out by louder, far more compliant voices. You are dissecting this script right now because your intuition has already signaled the truth. The shadow on the wall is not the real world. Now, you face the definitive choice. There are exactly two strategic paths forward. The first path is to willingly re-enter the cave. Mute your skepticism. Swallow your observations. Agree with the trending narratives you know are fraudulent. Post the approved content that secures your social status. Many select this route. They experience easier lives, maintain larger friend groups, and avoid social friction. But they are completely asleep. The second path is grueling. It requires adopting the ultimate Machiavellian stance, accepting that the cost of true vision is being entirely misunderstood by the blind. The cost of executing real strategic thinking is being branded a disruptor. The cost of refusing to flatter the incompetent is being labeled arrogant by individuals who have never generated a single original insight in their entire lives. Take control of your narrative if you are ready to stop watching the shadows and start decoding the real game of power. Hit that subscribe button right now. Drop a like to join the ranks of the true realists who refuse to drink the crowd's poison. Stay ahead of the masses. Subscribe to the Silent Psychology and master the laws of wisdom and power before the next vote is cast.